welcome to episode 9 of Scribbles with Jonathan. I'm your host, Jonathan Rector. Today we're going to talk about making some tough decisions, and you get to watch some concept. I'll get it out of the way right away what the concept is. It's for my creator-owned comic book that I'm working on, and I'll slowly start leaking details out. I have been putting details on my Twitter, and I'll give you some more information about that at the end of the video. And if you wanted to go to my blog, you can go through my website. Again, more information later on. And you can keep up to date with how it goes if you're even mildly interested in this. And what we're doing right now is it's going to be. At first, I was going to do a forest dryad. And as I kept going, my line work started to get a little thicker, and things started to get a little darker. And the best part about doing concept stuff is you have an idea in your head, especially when it's for you. And as you go, you just start to turn it into something else sometimes. And to me, that's the fun part, where you just let your mind go and do what you want, and let the lines speak for themselves, and you let the line work, kind of tell the story for you. And as long as you go with that, some really cool things happen to it. So this ends up turning into, I'm going to call him the Forest Walker. And he might be some of the characters, or there might be a race of these guys in the book that the main character talks to. Or just comes across, but we can see how we go as we go along. What happens here? And anyway, the decisions I was talking about was I was talking to a few people, a couple art friends of mine the other night, and we started talking about convention tables. And if, let's say, just between us here, if you were to go to a convention and there was an artist there that didn't have any books or anything to sell. It was just him or her selling sketches, maybe tossing out some business cards, flyers, trying to get their name out there on the indie, I suppose, route, as opposed to just shopping their portfolio around. Would that be a big deal to you as a consumer? Like, would you just bypass that person altogether, or would you stop and flip through if they had like a portfolio there that you could just flip through and ask for a sketch? Or anyway, it led to some really interesting discussions. And the main reason I was asking it is because the concept that I'm working on right now, again, is for the book that I would like to have ready for a convention that's going to be here in Canada. I believe it's the end of August, and I'm running into some snags along the way. I've come up with maybe like 3 or 4 different iterations of the story, and not just this, but other topics in general. And the problem I'm running into is right now I'm terribly busy with work, and this, unfortunately, is a side project, and I really want to get it done and out there, and it'll literally be my first creator-owned book, and it's really exciting, and I don't want to mess it up, your first trip through the floodgates, so to speak, you want to, show some skill. You don't want to just release garbage. I mean, nobody wants to release garbage. So, to summarize, what I'm concerned about is it's a very tight deadline for me to reach to get this done. And I don't want to just do pencils. I would like to color it. I'm not very good at inking. I've been playing around in Photoshop doing an inking technique over my pencils. It gets the job done, but again, these are still things I'd like to improve on. And if I were to do them right now, it may come across as rushed and ultimately look like garbage. And nobody wants that. I couldn't expect anybody to be excited about garbage and try to expect people to buy that. You'd want to be at least proud of it, even if the artwork itself isn't, quote unquote top quality work. You still want people to look at it and go, wow, there's something cool about that, something interesting, something to make them spend their money but not feel ripped off or gypped. So all in all, what I'm trying to say is I may not be going to the convention this year. With a booth, simply because I want to have this book available for people to purchase or look through and chat with people. And I don't, like I said, don't want to feel rushed, so I may skip the convention just so that I can give the story the proper attention it deserves, and nothing will be rushed. I can spend more time fleshing things out, and coming to that conclusion really set up some relief in my scheduling and stuff like that. And some really good work does come out of people that really hammer out some, under pressure work. And I deal with deadlines all the time, and sometimes you got to do what you have to do in order to get that deadline done. And some of the things that come out are really garbage, and some of them that come out, you're like, wow, I just learned like a shorthand way to do something, and you carry it on to the next project. But I'd like to know what you guys think about that. If anybody wants to message me or anything, just what you think about, if you went to a convention and you saw an artist there, maybe you had no interest who or no idea who it was, but you wanted to know, if you saw their booth there with nothing to sell except sketches, would you even consider going over to them? If they had like a portfolio open that you could flip through, would that even be something you're interested in? Or do you go to some of these conventions, whether they're the mainstream ones or the indie ones, and just, you're looking for actual art books or comic books? It's a really good discussion we had. I think I was sketching, more of my comic here, while I was talking to my friends for probably a good couple hours last night. Went way up into the AM, and I had to get up at 6, and, it's hard to feel tired when you're talking with creative people about creative things, and, your little babies and stuff, so it's good things. Right there, what I was doing was I left the eye open, and I think it added a little bit of humor to it, which I wanted to have, but as I was getting a little bit more detailed in there, it started to get really muddied, so I just blacked it out. All in all, what I have been doing with these concept sketches is this is very, very primitive stuff. I mean, especially this one. It's meant for the my podcast here, but what I have been doing is I do something like this, a little similar. Maybe I'd go maybe another 10, 20 more minutes in there just to get, and I'd be going slower so I can make those strokes with the pencil meaningful a little bit more. And I'll take it into Photoshop and we'll just do a quick color pass, just to test it out. And what I ended up doing, because of the eyes that I wanted to do, later on when I go back in there, I am going to do the eyes the way I wanted to, because in Photoshop I can add some light, I want these forest walkers to have, I know you've seen it all the time where it's kind of like an energy from within. So it's not really eyes. It's kind of like the energy in the body coming through the eyes. And right now what I'm doing is I was just adding some red pencil. Just to, it's a trick I know a lot of people do when they're doing concept work in Photoshop and Painter and things, where instead of doing an actual background, you can just kind of throw some colors in the background to give an idea of where the creature or character is, and just to separate it, from all the white in the background. And here I'm just zooming in, and it's really tough. Yeah, you can see I'm adjusting the camera. It's really tough to look up at the monitor and then look down where I'm drawing and have the camera not move around too much, because especially when I zoom in here to try to show you what I'm doing for detail purposes, it does get a little muddied. But yeah, just doing some rendering. I didn't want to go too crazy with it, but I just, again, this is just for me when I take a little bit further to know where I'm trying to get my, not just light source, but the texture I'm going for in my mind, what should be textured. And initially this was all going to be like a bark covered in foliage and mushrooms and dead leaves and things like that. I don't want this thing to be, an Ent from Lord of the Rings or anything like that. Ents are really cool, don't get me wrong. They got their place for sure, but the Ents, they always seemed to me when I was watching Lord of the Rings, wise and old and very, majestic in the way they were. In the book I'm working on, I want those type of characters in there, except for what I'm going for is a little bit more power and rage, and I want everything down to like the rabbits on the ground to have, ripped calves and stuff like that, just look muscular and powerful. Not exactly horrifying or terrifying or evil, just, power. It's one of the things I like to do, especially doing with comic work and illustration, is, we get to do the things that you can't do in reality or see in reality, and that's 90% of the fun. It's just experimenting and playing around with things that we do get in everyday life, and otherwise. Anyway, the sketch is going to be done, and I'm just going to finish it up here, show you a scan in Photoshop, just so you can see a little bit more of the details in there, in case they didn't come across during the video. And, we're just adding a little bit more shading in there, seeing where this concept's taking us. I'm pretty happy with how it went. There were a couple things that got muddied, like I said a little earlier. Perhaps I'll go back and I'll show you guys some actual afterworks once I put it in Photoshop, and we can see where it goes. But yeah, we're just finishing up right there, and I'll just go a little close up here, and then I'll just forward it over to an actual scan so we can see the full details. So thanks for watching. Like I said earlier, you can get a hold of me on Twitter if you're on there. My username is artbyjar. By all means, stop by. I do post some sketches here and there, and just things to keep people updated. You can also check out my website at jonathanrector.com. There's a blog and some other things up there. And don't forget to subscribe to the videos so you can keep yourself up to date. And have an awesome week, my friends. Keep the lead and styluses burning, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.